All right, so the last thing we'll talk about in this section, the last bit of new information, has to do with exiting our loops in a controlled manner. So we could have a loop, like a while loop, that might be running forever, or it might be running 10,000 times, but maybe there's one particular case or reason we might want to quit early, and there's a way to do that. So the keyword is break. Break is what we write to exit out of a loop whenever we want. And I did write while loop, but further down I said for loops, so it does work for both. But the first example is of a while loop. So here's an example of an infinite loop, at least it seems infinite, while true, so that will always run. But we're setting a variable called command equal to input, and we're asking for them to type exit to quit the loop. And then if command is equal to exit, we break. And that will then halt the execution of the loop. So I'll show you. Let me clear this out, and let's do a subble break.py. I'll paste this in, and Python 3. I can type anything, keeps going infinitely until I type exit, and it breaks out of the loop for us. So here's an example with a for loop. It's silly, and you would never do this, but in this case, we're printing the numbers from 1 to 100. And what will happen? Well, we print the number, and then if x is 3, we break the loop and we stop. So the end result is that we basically print the numbers from 1 to 3, even though the loop intended to go from 1 to 100. So I'll paste that in instead. Let's execute this. Make some space. Now we run Python 3 break, and we get 1, 2, and 3. And lastly, here's one more example using an exercise that we already did earlier, where you could input a number of times, like 10 times, and it will repeat clean up your room 10 times. But if this was a real relationship between a son or daughter and parent, they would probably not sit there saying, clean up your room 100 times. Maybe 3 times, maybe 2 times. I mean, who knows? It really depends on households. I'm not trying to make any assumptions about anyone's childhood here. But in this hypothetical environment, 4 times is the limit. Yelling, clean up your room 4 times. And after 4, we'll just say, do you even listen anymore? And break out of the loop. So let me show you that. Comment this out. Paste this one in. So we're asking for how many times we have to tell you. We enter a number like 2, and we print clean up your room 2 times. But if the number is 50, we'll do it the first 2, 3, 4 times. But then once we get above 4, we print, do you even listen anymore? And we break out of the loop. So it's a way of putting a maximum end, a stopping point. So the same thing would work with a while loop. But let's run this now. How many times do I have to tell you? 3? Okay, so we get clean up your room 3 times. But how about 40? So we get clean up your room, and actually we're getting 5 times here. Well, the problem is that this loop with the range, it actually starts with times at 0. So it's actually 0, 1, 2, 3. And so for it to equal 4, it's only on the 5th time through the loop. Oh my gosh, can't type. So we could either change this to be greater than or equal to 3, like that, or we could offset the loop and have it start at 1. But let's just do greater than or equal to 3. Now if we try it, if I say 30 times, we get 1, 2, 3, 4, break. Do you even listen anymore? Okay, so that's break. It's a controlled way of exiting the loop. You can, just a single line, break, put it wherever you want inside of a loop. If you did it on the first line, nothing would ever run in that loop. So just, I should be clear about that. It doesn't break out of, after the loop iteration ends, it breaks out immediately. So if I move it and I enter 10, nothing happens at all. It quits right there. So I'll put it back. And that's it. So the next thing we'll do is take a look at our rock, paper, scissors game and put it in a loop so that you can play more than once.